Coastal Maine is a beautiful part of the United States, especially in the autumn season. So today you're going to see our 3-day itinerary through some of the smaller towns along the southern coast of Maine, some fall foliage, and some of the places that we went and places that we also ate as well. So check out our 3-day itinerary for southern coastal Maine. We visited during the last week of October, so there were some places in the smaller towns that were already closed for the season, so be prepared for that. If there is a particular place of mind that you wanted to visit, make sure they will be open if you are traveling in the autumn season, because it was about 2 weeks prior to our arrival that a lot of these places did close. So make sure to check that out before you plan your itinerary for autumn here in southern Maine. So we are here in New Hampshire and Maine. Flew in last night to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and then we're going to be exploring the coastal towns of Maine, but we're doing a side trip to begin with, which is the Kennebunkport Highway. We're here in late October, so it's like the last week of October, so I believe we're past peak season, but we are still seeing a lot of pretty fall foliage. So I'm just going to take you along all the stops along the highway and kind of just give you a view of all of the things that you can do, or some of the things that you can do along the highway. But we are doing a little side trip. It's about 2 hours from where I landed in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, to come and start this drive. And the drive is, I think it's around almost 33 miles for the drive. So I want to take you along the scenic drive as we go along the Kennebunkport Highway, and then I'll show you all the coastal towns, where we eat, and what we do while we're here for our 4 days in Maine and New Hampshire. We began the drive in Kittery, Maine, where we stopped at this very beautiful landing that also has a great place to grab a quick bite. It's the Buoy Shack. They have lobster rolls, fresh seafood, and burgers as well. So Kittery was our beginning point for the 2-hour drive to the start of the Kennebunkport Scenic Byway. So the highway is 34.5 miles long, and it does reach an elevation of 2,855 feet. So I'm going to take you along and show you some of the stops that we just did some lookouts, and we did one little hike to a waterfall. I'll share all of that with you, but as you can see, we're a little bit late to see the peak colors. We were here the last week of October, and some of the leaves are starting to fall off, but we are going to start at the very first stop, which was the suspension bridge. From the suspension bridge, we drove a little further. As you can see, this would have been a very beautiful drive 2 weeks prior to when we were here, but a lot of the leaves were already gone, so we didn't get to see that beautiful fall foliage. But even still, it was a pretty drive with some really nice lookout points. So that's what we're doing here, is just stopping at a few stops that show some really good overlooks of some of the fall foliage. And then the next stop after that will be a little short waterfall hike. Our next stop was a waterfall trail. So as you can see, it's less than a half a mile there, and then same back. It was a very nice leisurely walk, and then you could see this waterfall. There's also an overlook that you can walk up the steps to. So if you do have mobility issues, you might not be able to go to the overlook, but just to get to the waterfall and see it, there wasn't very many issues. It was fairly a nice even terrain to get to the waterfall, but then you did have to walk up some steps to get to this viewing platform at the top. We made a few more stops for some scenic overlooks, and then we decided to drive through this covered bridge. So this is one of the few covered bridges that you can still drive on. So we went to the other side, backed up, took some pictures, and then went and drove through it a second time. So this is the covered bridge, really nice and beautiful pictures with the colors and everything. It was just a beautiful setting, so really nice to be able to drive across this covered bridge. So that was the drive through the Kennebunkport Highway, and as you can see, the colors would have been more beautiful a couple of weeks prior to when we were here, but still a really beautiful drive.
So it's the next day, and today we're going to be exploring Ogunquit and York, and also Kennebunkport. So we're going to start off with the Nebel Lighthouse, as you can see it in the backdrop right here, and then I'll show you all the places we'll be going from here back up to Kennebunkport today. So a beautiful day, lighthouse is gorgeous, and I'll just show you the stops along the way from York all the way up to Kennebunkport.
So this is the Cape Nedic Lighthouse, which is also called Nebel Light, and it stands on the Nebel Island. It's about 100 yards off of Cape Nedic Point, and it's actually still a working lighthouse, but it's one of the smaller lighthouses, and it's in the village of York Beach. So this is in the city of York, and there's usually a little lobster shack restaurant, but we are off season, so it has already closed for the season. But if you're here in the summertime, that might be a great place to grab a lobster roll or some fresh seafood. So we're leaving York, heading toward Ogunquit and Perkins Cove to grab some lunch. So we decided we wanted to do a more scenic drive, so we tried to get as close to the coast as we could. So it does take a little bit longer to get up to Perkins Cove by doing this, but we really wanted to just check out the houses and the coastline as far as we could. We made it to Perkins Cove, and our first stop was for lunch at Barnacle Billy's, etc. There are two Barnacle Billy's locations. This one is more of a sit-down style. The other one is more like a grab-and-go kind of atmosphere. And they set us in the cutest little cove. We were kind of by ourselves. You first walk in, and there was a little table with just two chairs. And this was the view while we were eating our lunch. This is where you can grab some of your lobster tours or your fishing charters. We were off-season again, so there wasn't many of those going out right now, if any at all. But this is so neat to just look over this marina, and this was the view that we had while eating. Of course, I had to try their clam chowder, a little bit too thin for me, but then also my husband tried the chicken sandwich, and then I got the fish and chips. After lunch, we decided to walk the Marginal Way. There are several entrances that you can get to. There's one that is at the downtown area of Ogunquit, and then there is the one that is right in the center of Perkins Cove. We chose, since we were eating at Perkins Cove, to just start there, which is kind of the end of it. So it's a beautiful walkway, and you can go out at any of the exits or entrances if you want to. We decided to do the entire walk, and it was just a really beautiful walk. It was very windy that day and a little bit cool, but still a really nice, pleasant walk. And this is a little beach area that I feel like would be very crowded during the summertime, but it was just a really nice walk. And this is one of the ends that we walked past that is toward the end of the path. So we decided to end the walk at the entrance that is kind of in downtown Ogunquit. I'll show you the entrance. This is one of the ways that you can enter into Marginal Way if you're in the downtown area. They had it decorated so cute for the Halloween season and the fall season. Almost everybody participated in the decorating. It was really cute to walk through the downtown area. And in front of this house were all these painted rocks, which had some really inspirational messages on them, and it was just fun to walk through here and see all the different rocks that people had left, and just a really neat area to walk around. Now, there was a lot of restaurants that were already closed down for the season here as well. There was one that I was wanting to eat at, which was open, but it's only open for dinner time, so they didn't open until 4, and it's this place right here that is that place in Ogunquit. But we were there too early to be able to eat dinner there, and this is the entrance if you're driving into Perkins Cove. We were able to park across the street from Barnacle Billy's where we ate, and then they do a valet parking there, or it's $25 for all day. So we did park at Barnacle Billy's right across the street. Since we ate there, we were able to have it valeted there as well. And then we walked the marginal pathway into downtown Ogunquit and came back around. And then the valet was ready to hand us our car. So we wanted to drive into the end of Perkins Cove and see what they had after Barnacle Billy's. And we found a 2-hour parking right by the footbridge, which you'll see right here. This is a drawbridge footbridge, and it used to, someone would have to hit a button to allow the drawbridge to open, but now they do have a different way to do that that's more efficient. But there was a 2-hour parking there, and again, this is off season, so I'm sure during the summertime you probably won't be able to find parking that easily. But we parked here, looked around, there's some shops, and again, some of the ice cream shops and things were already shut down for this season. But they do have this shack. It's the Footbridge Lobster, and everybody was getting lobster rolls, and I will show you the menu there, but it is literally right at the end of the footbridge, and that is a very popular place. There were several people getting lobster rolls, and I'll show you a close-up of the menu so you can see the price. A lobster roll is $40 there. So I thought I would just show you a view of Perkins Cove. As you can see right here where the marina is on the left side, Perkins Cove kind of ends at the water's edge, and then you can see to the right that you have the Marginal Way. So you start on the opposite side of the footbridge, and then you can walk around the Marginal Way path into downtown Ogunquit. But absolutely beautiful houses. There's an inn that is right there by the footbridge, and then there are some restaurants, but half the restaurants were closed. I think Barnacle Billy's might have been the only one that was open while we were there. And then you can see there are some really pretty fall foliage colors as well. On the very edge, you will see Ogunquit Beach. We cannot do drone footage over Ogunquit Beach, so that is as close as I can get to that beach. But absolutely a really cool place. I think it would be a little bit better in summertime when all the shops and all the restaurants are open, but still a really nice, cute little quaint town. After leaving Perkins Cove, we decided we would go to Ogunquit Beach. There is a large parking lot right beside the beach that is paid parking, and I'm sure it does get pretty crowded during the summer months, but it was a very vacant beach as of right now, and a few people walking their dogs on the beach, which I don't think that you can do during the summertime. But we just kind of looked around, stayed here for a few minutes, and then went on to Footbridge Beach. Again, a really great parking area, and it does have this little footbridge to get over to the beach area. So now we are at the Footbridge Beach that connects into Ogunquit Beach. It's a really long, sandy beach, and we just left Perkins Cove, so a lot of things were closed. A lot of the shops, some of the restaurants were already closed for the season, and today is October the 27th, so I think a lot of them closed like after Columbus Day weekend. So just keep that in mind if you're coming in the fall season, that a lot of the things at Perkins Cove and Ogunquit were closed already for the season. But behind me is that beautiful beach, and I just wanted to share with you some of the things we had done today. So you got some footage of Ogunquit and Perkins Cove, and then we are going to head north to Kennebunkport, and I'll meet you there.
So I thought I'd talk to you as we went across the footbridge that we are a little bit late for fall foliage. As you can see, a lot of the colors are beginning to die off and a lot of the leaves are gone. We did do the Kennebunkport, or the Kank Highway, yesterday, and with some colors, but not a lot. Most of the leaves were off the trees, but still really nice because this is off season, so you don't have a lot of the crowd. The temperatures in about the 50s this time of year, and so we're going to head on into Kennebunkport. So our next stop was going to be at the St. Anne's by the Sea Episcopal Church, but as you can see, the gates are locked, so I thought they were going to be open. It says sometimes, weather permitting or staff, they might close early, so they are not open. I really wanted to go inside and see the church, but I can't show that to you guys. So this is a great place to go, and you can check and see if they're going to be open when you're here, and you can either attend a service or they do have some pews out on the back. I'm going to try to get some drone footage of that for you guys so you can kind of see that and see the aerial view of it, but I can't go inside and see the church. And this is on the way. If you're wanting to go into Dock Square at Kennebunkport, then you can stop by here on the way in, but can't show you today because it is closed.
A short drive from the church, you'll see a pull off with a flag and a sign that tells you that you have a vantage point of the bush compound that is across the water. So you can't get very close to it. This is the closest you'll be able to find a view of the home that George Bush, the father and the son, have their compound here where they like to vacation. And you can see this entire peninsula is guest house, their house, and all of the Bush compound. From this same viewpoint, you also have where you can view the blowhole that is located right across the water from the Bush compound. Just a short drive down Ocean Avenue will take you into Dock Square, where half the town of Kennebunkport and half is the town of Kennebunk. It does kind of cross over a bridge. You will have the different cities. And this is a great place to grab some food at some of the great restaurants where you can catch some local seafood. This is also an area where you could do some lobster boat tours, also some scenic tours as well during the summertime, but those have closed down for the season while we're here. Most of the restaurants were still open, but one of the most disappointing things to me is I wanted to try the lobster roll from the Clam Shack. I came here a couple of years ago on a cruise and just decided to not try it, and then I've been kicking myself since then, and they are already closed for the season, so I did not get to try my lobster roll that I was really looking forward to eating at the Clam Shack. They are well known, they're world famous. They have two types of lobster rolls. One is called the Connecticut roll, where it's more butter based and warm, and then one is the Maine roll, which is more cold and mayonnaise based. And I was going to choose the butter because I'm not such a fan of mayonnaise, but I did not get to try it out. And here's your view of Dock Square. There's some public parking with some public restrooms at the end of Dock Square. You can see this bridge. It separates Kennebunkport with Kennebunk. There's lots of different places to eat. There's the Boathouse, which is very popular, but we did decide to go to a Federal Jack's to eat, and it was delicious, and we felt like VIP because we got another great table overlooking the marina, which was so nice. And this is where you will catch your charters if you do fishing charters or lobster tours or any of the scenic tours that they have during the summer season. Of course, they weren't going out during this time because it is off season, but really a great place to spend some time checking out some unique souvenirs and eating at some really great restaurants. So like I had stated, we decided to eat at Federal Jack's, which is kind of a little way off the main street of Dock Square, and the food was delicious. My husband got the chicken, I got a berry and goat cheese salad, and had to finish off with some dessert. The blueberry pie with the ice cream was so delicious. So we had to start the next morning at Holy Donuts for breakfast. If you are not familiar with them, they are a potato-based donut, and they are a little bit more dense and cake-like than your regular like Krispy Kreme donut. So we have tried these once before. We were on a cruise, and they have a location that is in the downtown area that's right off of where you dock the cruise ship, but once we went there and they were completely sold out, and then the last time that we went there, they only had a few selections left, so we decided to go to one that was a little bit further south than the main downtown one, and we picked up 6. So from left to right, you've got the toasted coconut, used to be my favorite, but then the next one is blueberry, and that one by far is my favorite. Next to that is the whoopie pie, which I wasn't really a fan of, and then one of their best sellers is the chocolate sea salt, which is right next to it. Not a fan of that one either. And then you had the apple cider, which my husband loved, and then the vanilla, which is more of that plain style. The first stop after donuts was Fort Williams Park to see the Portland headlight, and there are plenty parking areas for this, and there's also handicap down at the bottom area, so you don't have to walk too far. There is a museum where you can go inside, do a tour. They're only open at certain times of the year and certain times during the day, so check that first if that's something that you want to do. And I just think this is the best lighthouse. This is the most photographed lighthouse in the United States. It's so great. We decided to come here early before the crowds got here because there is a cruise ship that is in port. It's the Enchanted Princess, so we do know there's tours coming to this lighthouse, so we wanted to get here before it got too crowded, and it's just such a really nice lighthouse. There is a parking lot when you first come in, which also has a little walkway where you can walk across and around the water. It also has a cliff walk right by the lighthouse. It was a little windy today, so we decided not to do the walk around the cliff. And there's a little mansion that you can also look at. There's a children's garden and play area as well, but this is just such a picturesque lighthouse. It was definitely a must-do. Just north of the big lighthouse are these smaller lighthouses. So you have to pass through a college campus, and then you get to the end of it and you see the Spring Point Ledge Lighthouse. You can actually walk out on the jetty to get to the lighthouse. You can't go in it, but it was really neat to just kind of see this little lighthouse at the end of a college campus. And just north of that is the Bug Light Park, which has the Bug Light Lighthouse. And from here, they had these kites that were on a line that were just flying because it's so windy at this park. And you can see the little lighthouse here. And then also from this lighthouse and this park, you can see the Enchanted Princess, which was docked in port today. And you can see the town and city of Portland right behind that. So definitely a great little place to go. I'd say in the summertime, there's lots of picnics and people that are just playing in the park. But here is the old port area of Portland that you can see, and you can see where the Enchanted Princess was docked. Then we went into the old port area, which has restaurants, shops. I had to do some souvenir shopping to bring home some things for my boys when we returned home. This is the Holy Donut, which was the first location that they had close to the port, and I was surprised that it was not more crowded in this area. Then you have the wharf area, and if you'll see that old fire truck, that is a tour that they do. And when we were on a cruise previously, we decided to do that tour, and it's really neat. Our boys, who at the time were 7 and 9, really enjoyed that little tour in the old fire engine. The last stop of the day was Old Orchard Beach. Again, since we were off season, most everything was closed. All of the restaurants, most of the hotels were like vacant, and then also the boardwalk seemed to be shut down as well. But they had started doing some work at the boardwalk, so we couldn't drive up there to show you that. But I do have some aerial footage of the really beautiful beach here at Old Orchard Beach. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Myrtle Beach, how it has the boardwalk and these souvenir shops, restaurants, and the ice cream shops as well. So this was our last stop, and as you can see, not a lot of people here. I am sure this is super crowded during the summer months. So You can see Old Orchard Beach, which was our last stop of the day, and this was a basically 3-day itinerary where we explored Portland and Ogunquit, Perkins Cove, also Kennebunkport as well, and then tried to see some fall foliage wherever we could. So this was a really great coastal Maine trip. I hope you enjoyed exploring the southern Maine coast with me here in autumn, and I do hope that you enjoyed this video. If so, please hit that like button for me, you guys. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day and happy travels.